kan orí mi gbé mi kó tún gbẹgbẹ́ mi orí mo Hello, this is Sound Has No Cell. This morning, I want to call your attention to this song by the late Orlando Owo, Ìyàwó Àsìkò. Let's listen to him. Increase the volume a bit. Let's listen to Orlando Owo. Má pa mí o, ìyàwó àsìkò. Ọ̀la ìjà. Òní èrè ọ̀la ìjà. Kí ló ṣe ní ṣèwọ́ ṣèjà náà ìyàwó? Kí ló ṣe ní ṣèwọ́ ṣèjà náà ìyàwó? Let's listen to this song and then I'll say a few things about it. Abdulrahim Olajide, you are acknowledged. Thank you for joining in. Ready, Yomi. Jẹ́ nǹkankan. Adebola ẹ̀ panumọ́. Bọ̀dá ẹ̀ panumọ́. Ọkọ̀ bá ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ jù lọ́wọ́, Adebola ẹ̀ panumọ́. I want to say a few things about it. There have been many musicians who issued songs that are similar to this about women. And today I want to share my views about these songs. Can you hear that? Èyí tí ó bá gbọ́ tọ̀kọ́ á gba bàtà lórí as if. Ìyàwó mi tí mo fìfẹ́. Ìfẹ́ bí ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ìyàwó mi tí mo fìfẹ́. Ó yẹ ká mọ̀ wọ́n ara wa. Ìyàwó kò yẹ kó máa jẹ gàba lórí mi ìyàwó. Wọ́n yẹ lágége. Ọ̀nà Ìjẹ̀bú. Ìwérewére tòmí rìn kó máa tẹ́ mi lọ́rùn o. Ìwérewére tòmí rìn kó máa tẹ́ mi lọ́rùn o. Búrẹ́dì omi. Bó bá pa sọ̀rọ̀ awú bí búrẹ́dì omi. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni pọ́kọ́ ojú ẹgbẹ́ bí ojú ẹgbẹ́ rẹ̀ ń mójú tẹ́ ibi ojú ẹgbẹ́. Ìyàwó ilé. Ìwà àbẹ́wà jẹ́. Bísísí ti dára tó fi wà àbẹ́wà jẹ́. Ìwà àbẹ́wà jẹ́. Alákọ̀rí. Ọmọ dára kò máa dẹ̀ níwà abúnibí ẹni láyín. Kò máa yé mi tó, Edewekpe yo. Kò máa yé mi tó, omidan. Now reduce the volume. So we have listened to Orlando Owo's music song, Ìyàwó, titled Ìyàwó Lele. Ìyàwó Lele. Ìyàwó Lele. How do I explain what it means by Ìyàwó Lele now? Ìyàwó Lele may mean a moi moi or Lele loving wife. If you know what Olele is a kind of dish prepared by grinding beans and mixing that batter with oil, pepper, all sorts of seasoning, fish, whatever you have to put inside, and wrapping it up or putting it in a small bowl to cook. If you want, Oyibo didn't have Olele, it is ours. So Oyibo do not have a name for it. But people who want to anglicize it would say it is beans pudding. Well, if you want to call it beans pudding, you can go ahead and call it beans pudding. But Olele is Olele. Moi moi is moi moi. So when they say Ìyàwó Olele, it may be referring to a moi moi loving wife. And that moi moi is symbolic. You know, moi moi is very smooth. If you know, the beans has been ground and seasoned and cooked, so it turns out very delicious and smooth. It is not as chewy as popcorn. It is not, your teeth doesn't have any problem trying to chew it. It dissolves on your palate and it's so easy to gulp within a very short time of the moi moi bite landing in your mouth. So a wife who loves sweet things, sweet things, easy life, a wife who is attracted to ease, to convenience, to enjoyment, to pleasure, that may be what Orlando Owo meant by Ìyàwó Lele. So a pleasure-loving wife is Ìyàwó Lele. And then he also described the woman as Ìyàwó Àsìkò, that is a modern-day wife. It may also mean a wife who is attracted to trends, a wife who is attracted to things that are in vogue, a wife who likes to go out shopping, spend money, socialize, and so on and so forth. And you know, he continued in that song to describe women. Nobody knows, because many of these musicians, when they release a song, there is somebody at the back of their mind that they are attacking indirectly. But there are also times that they do not have any particular person in mind. It is just a general attack on womanhood. They just feel that that is what women are generally. They say women are evil. They say all that a woman knows is money. Women like money. A lot of men are of this opinion that women like money. They like a place where all is just rolling on smoothly without having to contribute anything. And it is not only Orlando Owo who has shared these views. There have been many musicians who released very derogatory lyrics to describe women. And probably at the times they were releasing those songs, they didn't have it in mind, or they didn't remember that the person that gave birth to them was also a woman, you know. So which means the people being referred to would include their own mothers. But having said that, they might have forgotten. Having said that, I want to because towards the end of that song, he says, that is the attitude of the lady. He does not understand. So who says that ladies, women, married or married, girlfriends, wives, who says that they also understand the attitude of men? Or even if they do, or if some of them do, who says that the women are also pleased with the attitude of men, with the way men behave to them, either in a relationship or in a marriage that has been consummated? Who says that? The issue is that everybody wants the other person to understand him or her. Every man wants the partner. Every man wants the girlfriend or the wife to understand him, while he is not prepared to understand the woman. The same thing applies to the women. Every woman wants the man to understand her when she is not prepared to understand the man. But because men have had more opportunity to to lash out on women, so we have had more songs denigrating women or womanhood than we have had more songs exposing the inadequacies of men. But that is okay. That is okay. But the issue is, if you want a loving husband, if you want a loving wife, you want a cooperative husband, you want a cooperative wife, what you have to do, the very first thing that you have to do is that understanding is necessary. And I've had a lot of people on different occasions at different times mentioning understanding is what matters. But what is understanding? Nobody or many people or some people do not even care to say, when we say understanding is the principal thing, is the essential thing, is the thing that matters. What is understanding? Some people think that understanding is overlooking negative attitude, overlooking sins, overlooking errors. They think that is what understanding is. Overlooking your friend's error or your partner's error is not what is known as understanding. Understanding is trying to know the reason why he or she did what he or she did. And then, if you have contributed to the reason why he or she did, or why he or she behaved in the way that he or she behaved, trying to see how you contributed to it, and from your own side resolving not to do that same thing again that provoked your partner to do what he did that made you angry. That is understanding. You are becoming a master of the situation, and you want to put that behind and do better in the future. That is understanding. The Yoruba would say, "Itele dieni ki moniti." People who are as close as your undies, your underwears, to you, cannot be ignorant of who you are. But we have seen in many occasions that people who are as close as undies to people are ignorant of who they are. That is why you see somebody being arrested for armed robbery, and when the wife is questioned, the wife will say, "I never knew. I didn't know that he was into that." That is why you catch a woman, a married woman, mother of children that you know in your neighborhood, you suddenly find them in a brothel, and when it gets, maybe she runs into trouble at the brothel, and then the case gets to the husband, and the husband is surprised that he never suspected that the wife was a professional prostitute. So that is what it should be, that people who are very close to you should not be ignorant of who you are. But it is not like that. There are many times that people who are very close to you are ignorant of who you are, because knowing your partner will not just happen by default. It won't just happen that you will just know everything. You have to be interested. You have to be interested in who is this guy. What does he like? What does he hate? What would I do that would mean pressing his buttons, that will make him go angry, and so on and so forth. You also have to know your wife. Who is she? What does she like? What does she detest? What would make him go angry? What will make him go mad? It has to be deliberate. If you are not deliberate about knowing who they are, you may know a bit, but you won't truly know them. And Yoruba would say that Abeni mamo shieni ikani. If you say you are my friend and you don't know who I am, you are a wicked person. It shows that you actually are not interested in relationship. It means that the relationship to you is, you just want it as an instrument, as a means to your own end. Love is not your driving force. That is why you are wicked. Abanirin, mamo shieni, ikani, itele dieni, himoniti. If somebody is your wife, you need to be deliberate. You need to consciously study them so that you know how to deal with them. You know how to interact with them. If somebody is your husband, you have to be deliberate about studying them to understand them. If you don't give that time, there will always be problem. And somebody like Orlando Owo would always come out with a generic impression about the opposite sex. And somebody like another female singer would also come out with a general view about the male gender. So if we want to go beyond prejudices, we have to deliberately study the person that we are in a relationship with and consciously try not to press their buttons. Because when you press their buttons, you see the other side of them. A radio will be quiet until the button is pressed. If the button is not pressed, the radio would not talk. And as much as you are trying to understand your partners, one thing is also very important. People would today people would say, I don't care what people say about me. It is a very devilish statement. If nobody cares about what people say about them, what would this world look like? You have to care about what people say about you. Tí a bá ń pèèyàn ní abìfún ńláńlá, abìfún ràìràì, people say it in different ways. Onítọ̀hún yẹ kó pà fún ẹ mọ́. Because when people have an impression about you, and it is not one person or two people or three people, and there are many, you have to pause and ponder. You have to stop and reflect and check whether there are things that you need to adjust in your life. If you don't stop to reflect on these impressions about you, then you will just continue on that lane until you run into a ditch. And at that time, it will be too late. So when it comes to relationship, You need to understand your roles. You need to understand the impression about other people about you. And you need to deliberately study the people that you're in a relationship with so that you don't press each other's buttons unnecessarily. I've seen a lot of people who would say, since my wife's business has become so prosperous, she has become so proud. And I've seen some people who would say, since my husband got promoted at his place of work, he no longer stays at home. The thing is, his schedule is now heavier than before because of the new seats, because of the higher position that he now occupies. He's now needed at the station more than when he was a junior person. So you also need to square up to your role as the partner of that person who has been promoted, so that you can help him to be his best at that new in that new position, and so that you don't create unnecessary problems for yourselves. And then people will say, since my wife has been promoted, since her business has become very prosperous, Abdul Washim Olajide, thank you. Since she has become very prosperous, she can no longer cook, she can no longer wash my clothes, she cannot. Sometimes you don't know that as our business is progressing, our age too is advancing. She's also advancing in age. Your wife may not be able to do the same chores that she was doing when she was 28. Maybe she's now 40, she's now 45, she's now 50 or 55 or 60, and you still expect her to do the same thing that she was doing for you when she was 23, when you newly married. You have to deal with your partner with knowledge. The knowledge, and it doesn't end with marriage alone. There are people who have been serving you since they were 32. Maybe as your driver, as your gate man, things are changing. You just conclude that because I've increased the salary, now you have started misbehaving. That may not be the case. He may be having health challenges. So you need to invite him or her and ask questions and get to know what the problem is, and find out if there is a way by which you can help. If your wife is now 50 or 48 or 37, she will no longer be the same lady that you married at 23. So you need to understand her current challenges and endeavor to help her. That is when we can now say that because you are not just there as, as undies. The undies do not have eyes, so they see nothing. So but what they are saying is that if you are close to a person, you should also understand their challenges. You should know what gives them joy. You should know what makes them sad. That is the way it should be. You should know things about them. When they are going astray, because you are watching, you are interested, you can call them to order. When they are doing well, you can praise them. If somebody lies against them, you can say, no, I trust he will never do that. That is the way it should be. Béèyàn bá sì ń bá yẹn rìn bí ò mọ̀ ṣe onítọ̀hún, ìkà ni. Ẹ jẹ́ á fi sọ́kàn, á tún máa pàdé. Ẹ ṣeun o, ẹ máa yáṣẹ́ o. Gbogbo wa la máa ríre gbà lénìí. Ó dìgbà.